Welcome back, everyone. This is my full Rick and Morty Season 5 Episode 8 video, the Welcome Back Birdperson episode. There were so many mind blowers and big reveals about Rick's history, the truth of Rick's history, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the episodes. There's a bunch of really big stuff happening this week too, and I'll also talk about the finale because they changed the schedule because of what they're doing with the finale. It's going to be a full hour long. I'm still doing the giveaway for Rick and Morty merch. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your favorite big reveal or Easter egg or reference from the episode on the video. Careful for spoilers from the entire episode if you haven't seen it yet. I'll number these Easter eggs and WTF moments as we go along to stay organized, starting with the episode title, Rickternal Friendshine of the Spotless Mort, which is a reference to the movie Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. During that movie, Jim Carrey is trying to get over a breakup with his girlfriend, Kate Winslet. He signs up for a service that's going to remove her from his memories, literally, but while it's happening, he changes his mind, deciding that he loves her and tries to save his memory of her, with the two of them running through different memories of his, trying to keep the memory of her alive. During the episode, a version of Birdperson attempts to destroy himself, literally blow his mind from the inside out, and as the reality of his memories start to crumble around him, his mind starts to crumble, the Ricks are running around trying to save him. They're like the Jim Carreys running around in Eternal Sunshine. For Birdperson, though, the thing that makes him change his mind and want to live to save himself is learning that he has a secret half-Birdperson child with Tammy that's alive in the real world being held captive on an asteroid prison by the remnants of the Galactic Federation. That's obviously something that they'll have to cover in a future episode, so I'll address that when we get to that part of the video. But that's only one thing on a long list of big mind blowers that they reveal about Rick's history. Minds were being blown, metaphorically and literally, during the episode, and one of the devices that they used to escape was from the Morty's Mind Blowers episode. But the actual episode starts with the rest of the family going on a cruise, leaving Rick by himself at the house, Beth kind of joking about a lot of movies where they leave kids owned by themselves without parental supervision. Rick makes a Pickle Rick reference, claiming the minute they leave, the chance of his ego swelling out of control and him attempting another Pickle Rick scenario shoots through the roof, which it kind of does. He doesn't turn himself into a pickle, but he does turn himself into pure thought to enter Birdperson's mind. The entire episode is full of references like this to earlier episodes, as well as revealing older events in Rick's life that he and Birdperson only talked about during Season 1 and Season 2, like the Battle of Blood Ridge. We also get to see them forming their band, Flesh Curtains, for the first time. Just the whole episode is full of nuggets like this. So he finally brings Phoenix Person out of storage where he's been since the end of Season 4 with him inside the compartment in his garage and proceeds to get into it with the AI of his garage, who offers to suck his and their neighbor's Gene's dicks multiple times. Gene is getting a whole lot of play this season. Not only did they reference him last week, Rick also ran over him with the car during Episode 4 when Morty's mutant sperm were killing everyone. He removes all Birdperson's cybernetic enhancements so that he looks a little bit more like himself. He does have a bunch of extra scars from his original death and all the surgery that the Federation performed on him. The reason why the AI has the anxiety attack and starts stalling for time is just because it isn't able to fix Birdperson the way that Rick wants him to be fixed, and she's afraid that Rick is going to terminate her program, which is when she starts waffling and offering to suck him off. The whole idea that she's terrified of dying, the AI is terrified of dying, is also meant to be a parallel for Birdperson wanting to die, then deciding that he does not want to die during the episode. They set up the whole Eternal Sunshine plot by saying that Birdperson hid his original mind deep inside his own memories to protect it from the Galactic Federation when they turned him into Phoenix Person. The reason why Rick doesn't take the AI up on its suggestion to just hop to a different timeline or different universe where Birdperson is fine and steal another version of him is because he wants to restore the version of Birdperson who he grew up with, his original Birdperson. Later in the episode, a younger version of him at Blood Ridge also tries to float this same idea to a younger Birdperson after their battle, like, look, nothing matters, infinite realities, let's go have adventures. So when Rick tells his AI that he's not going to do that, it's his way of saying that he's matured since Blood Ridge. He's admitting to himself that some things do matter, Birdperson matters to him, and he also kind of confesses this to the memory of his younger self later in the episode, that they love their friend Birdperson, even though his younger self isn't ready to admit that yet. When he's loading up the process to convert himself into a thought, that's the Pickle Rick moment of the episode. You see he's got a sentient energy-based creature trapped in the wall, melting it down to power the process. It's the same creature that he's smoking at their sci-fi version of Burning Man later in the episode. They said that the whole joke with the garage AI trying to get Gene's help with the batteries, because Rick explains that if something does go wrong and he dies while inside Birdperson's mind, the AI battery only lasts for 600 years. The AI freaking out so badly when things look like they're going off the rails, thinking that it might die, that it tries to wrangle in Gene's help by offering to suck him off and using the Marvel movies. There's so many Marvel references this season I've already talked about in the previous episode videos. A lot of former Rick and Morty writers are now working on new Marvel movies and Marvel Disney Plus series, like the Loki showrunner was a former Rick and Morty writer. He also wrote the Doctor Strange 2 Multiverse of Madness movie. One of the other writers who wrote the Pickle Rick episode, which they referenced during this episode, is actually working on the Marvel Disney Plus She-Hulk series. Dan Harmon himself made a joke about how Marvel is stealing a bunch of his writers, but he said it in jest, like he's not upset about it. The Marvel reference here, though, is Gene's like, oh, you're kind of like a version of Jarvis, and when the AI says, haha, I wish, that's just a reference to how much Rick mistreats her and abuses her. Rick starting out in that giant bird skull is just meant to be a representation of him entering Birdperson's mind literally, like he starts out where the brain would be inside this skull, but the reason why it's ultra stylized is in service of the Charlie Kaufman joke that they pay off later, which is actually the second Charlie Kaufman joke this season. They made another reference to him during the Thanksgiving turkey episode when Jerry was watching that really messed up trippy version of a Charlie Kaufman Wizard of Oz movie. He also sets up the joke about him being naked because it's so artsy, which they then pay off immediately when his clothes disintegrate off of him. Him diving into the hole is also a representation of him traveling down into Birdperson's deepest memories, like he's diving into a giant ocean of memory. The egg that he crashes through into the yolk is just a reference to Birdperson's birth because he's traveling forward through Birdperson's memories, like each new memory that he travels to is further forward in the timeline. This is also meant to be a reference to foreshadow the birth of Birdperson's child with Tammy later in the episode. All the trippy transitions between the different memories is a thing from Eternal Sunshine. In that movie, the memories start to bleed together, so they cut between the scenes with really trippy transitions like this. The next memory Rick goes to is a version of an intergalactic Burning Man mixed with Lollapalooza. They call it Burning Man a Palooza Flargabarg. This is meant to be the moment where he met Birdperson for the first time. Because this Rick has the same clothes and almost the same haircut, I'm assuming that not a ton of time passes between this and the events of Blood Ridge. So we'll say Rick was already approaching his mid-30s when this was happening because he's about 35 when Blood Ridge happens. He meets Birdperson, who apparently also loves to party. They get high together. Birdperson explains that he's called Birdperson because his culture doesn't believe in names. That's the writers joking about how in real life they were kind of lazy when they first created the Birdperson character. Like, well, he's a bird and he's a person, so we'll call him Birdperson. His actual first appearance was in Season 1, Episode 11 when he shows up at the house party saying the beacon was activated. There's a cool callback to that during the episode. When they break up at Blood Ridge, Birdperson says, if you ever need me, activate the beacon. So the house party was the first time that he activated the beacon. A couple years ago, Dan Harmon revealed that Birdperson is meant to be a parody of the sorceress from He-Man and the Masters of the Universe because she wears the bird costume all the time and changes into a bird. Rick takes the porta-potty into the next memory of them together, and it's them on a mission with Rick trying to get revenge against the Citadel of Ricks for the death of his wife Diane. If you couldn't tell, that's basically what's happening here. That's why they say killing us won't bring her back. So this is actually a really big deal. It's one of the big truth bombs that they drop about Rick's history during the episode. Because remember, these are Birdperson's memories, so you know that the events really happened. Earlier this season, Mr. Nimbus confirmed that Rick's wife died a long time ago, and during Season 3, Episode 1, he showed us a memory of the Citadel of Ricks murdering her in order to get rid of Rick's family so that he would be more willing to join them. But at the time, Rick claimed that that memory was false or could be false, so we couldn't really trust it as fans whether or not the Citadel of Ricks really were behind the death of his family. Later in the episode, they seemingly back this idea up that that memory was real when they reveal that Beth has been a clone this whole time. That's what younger Rick meant when he said, you've been living with a version of your dead daughter, implying that this whole memory of them dying in this explosion was actually real this whole time. That felt like an even bigger reveal than Birdperson's child during the episode. But then he travels to the next memory, which is them planning the Battle of Blood Ridge, and we meet his original crew. Some of them were referenced in previous episodes, like Birdperson, Squanchy, we know. Still wondering where he is in present day. Squanchy is still alive until confirmed otherwise. This is Gear Dude. He's the older brother of Gearhead from previous seasons. We also see a younger version of Gearhead inside the memory of Gear Dude's funeral when they run him over. Poor old Gearhead, he just can't catch a break. As far as I know, they don't give names to these other 3 crew members here, but maybe we'll find out about them some other way. The younger, 35-year-old memory version of Rick discovers C-137, who wins him over after revealing that he's a memory. Wait a minute, why was my 9th birthday party in a pine tree? It's just because Birdperson wasn't there for Rick's 9th birthday party, so he has no idea what happened during that. They kind of use this to set up the whole logic for how the memories work and give you the rules. The memory versions can't use their portal guns, for instance, because Birdperson never understood where they were using the portals to travel to. Also setting up the twist later that they can only use technology of Rick's that Birdperson remembers and understands. You also notice this younger version of Rick is carrying around a much more primitive version of his portal gun. They both make a joke about no one having true free will. That was actually a pretty big thing during the Loki finale. The Loki series was done, like I said, by one of the former writers on Rick and Morty. The whole premise of the Loki series, though, was that the only person in the universe who had true free will, or the multiverse if you want to think about it that way, was a version of Kang called He Who Remains, who was controlling the entire timeline. So we'll see if we have a similar payoff on Rick and Morty with someone secretly orchestrating events on a multiversal scale. And here we go again with all the evil Morty theories. Then they travel to the next memory where they finally find the real Birdperson watching a memory of his from a time earlier in his relationship with Tammy. They do the same gross Tammy joke from back in season 1 with her talking about sucking him off and the real Birdperson whispering the line, "Don't be gross, Tammy," kind of crying a little bit. Whole lot of blowjobs going around in this episode between Tammy and the garage AI. They chase him to the next memory, which is after the Federation attacked his planet. You notice the building here in the background says Historic Childhood Trauma Town, as the Federation captures a bunch of Birdperson's people. Memory Rick comes back and jokes about not understanding the rules of the episode. Am I invincible? Can we both die in here? Are we damaging Birdperson's brain by messing around with everything? Just calling out the logic of the whole episode, not totally making sense. Then sort of flipping that on its head by using his fake portal gun, which doesn't work as a shield. They make fun of the Shrek movies, younger Rick saying he's just a grumpy ogre and they made 4 of them, and Rick joking that there's probably a 5th Shrek movie in the time that they've been doing this during the episode. Morty is also a super fan of the Shrek movies. They set up the whole idea of younger Rick hating the idea of older Rick when he has to explain who Morty is and what his life is like, how he's living with a version of Beth. And like I said, that's when they reveal the Beth that we've been seeing this whole time has actually been a Beth from an alternate reality. That's what he meant when he said, "You're one of those creepy versions of Rick that just moves in with abandoned Beths." So if we're assuming that this Season 3 Episode 1 memory of them actually did happen, it is a true memory, he creates his first portal gun, and then at some point after this, he gets his revenge against the Citadel that we see play out in that earlier memory from the episode. Then at some point after that, he would have found an alternate reality where there was a version of Beth who didn't wind up dying during this accident that we see during Season 3 Episode 1, and would have just moved in with her, pretending to be her version of Rick.
A play over your own daughter?
Yes, I am, Beth, because you're not my own daughter.
Later, Rick makes another Space Beth reference, telling Birdperson at the end of the episode that he shouldn't create a clone of his new kid and then send it into space, because apparently they hate that. Then they travel to the next memory, which is inside the place where the Federation brought him back as Phoenix Person and messed with his mind. He tells the younger version of himself to go look for secret intel on the Federation. They don't really reference that again, but because the memory version of Rick survives escaping into one of Rick's real memories, he's just going to keep on living in there. Real C-137 Rick now has access to new intel on the Federation that he acquired. He just needs to go back to the memory of his childhood bedroom to find that version of Rick and ask him for that information. All the bombs that Birdperson is making to blow his own mind, metaphorically and literally, are created using energy from his negative emotions, like the negative aspects of his mind. His rage, one of them is cringe, one is denial, blame, fear, trauma, depression, disdain. So it's a metaphor for Birdperson, metaphorically and literally melting down. Like you talk about people in real life having meltdowns, having mental breakdowns. This is like a literal representation of that. Rick makes a Scientology joke claiming that he get in a sauna with John Travolta to save Birdperson. As younger Rick tries to find them, he starts going around opening doors to different memories. This one is from their death at the wedding in Season 2, also allowing this version of Tammy to escape and chase them down later in the episode. Both of the Ricks then learn about the existence of Birdperson's child in another memory, which is also set up for that ending where Birdperson calls him out for not telling him about the baby sooner. Rick makes a Blue Man Group when talking about getting your mind blown, because they're metaphorically and literally blowing Birdperson's mind during the episode. Then they travel to Birdperson's memory of their fight from the end of Season 4 when he was still Phoenix Person, just to steal the clothes off of this Rick's back. I love the way this version of Rick also reacts to that. I always knew that this was the way I would die. We'll see if they pay that off during the final Rick and Morty episode, whatever the final season winds up being. Then as the reality of Birdperson's mind starts to crumble around them, they take a shortcut by traveling through Birdperson's PTSD, represented by the subway train, which takes them to the memory of the Battle of Blood Ridge. The actual Battle of Blood Ridge is an amazing action set piece. It must have taken them a long time to animate this. And the younger version of Rick is sort of a surrogate for the audience, like, oh my god, this is so cool, I can't believe this. The giant walkers do kind of seem like Star Wars AT-ATs and AT-STs, but I actually think that they're meant to be a different sci-fi movie reference, so if you think you know what these designs are based on, just write it below in the comments. But the real reason why it's such a major event in Rick's life isn't because it was a huge battle, which it was. It's because it was sort of the moment of the end of his friendship with Birdperson, even though it wasn't the actual end of their friendship. They basically broke up, so to speak. They made all these references to them having this really bloody war and them potentially losing the battle, so the idea was they didn't actually lose the battle against the Federation, they beat the Federation, but Rick still feels like they lost the battle because he lost the battle for his friend. Then they travel to the next memory, which is a Birdperson and Tammy. In the way the Birdperson explains it, he knew that he was getting ready to die, like he was about to die at any moment, and wanted to die with the person that he loved. So he went to find a version of Tammy on a really nice day at their house. Young Rick makes a Lincoln Memorial joke. If you remember a couple episodes ago in the Thanksgiving episode, the Lincoln Memorial in the Rick and Morty multiverse is the secret entrance to the US government's vault where they keep the aliens who are basically responsible for all technology and culture in the world. Rick calls out all the tropes of the episode, saying that the closer the Birdperson's mind gets to collapsing, the more canon bullcrap is going to come and try and kill them, which sets up Tammy's joke revealing that she's secretly a member of the Federation. When Rick says, everybody knows, that's just a meta reference to us the viewers having learned about that a couple years ago. Rick tells Birdperson about his child to get him to want to live. Tammy then reveals what they would have done with the child had there been one, sort of setting up the post-credit scene. Then they travel back to Birdperson's memory meeting Tammy for the first time at Rick's party during Season 1 when they teleported the house to another reality, making out on his workbench, which apparently is gross, but Rick doesn't think that Squanchy jerking off in his closet is gross because apparently some closets are just for doing that, meaning Rick has probably done that a lot in closets. Birdperson also apparently remembers the Plumbus from Interdimensional Cable, them just wanting to bring deep cuts Easter eggs back from previous episodes. Then they get attacked by other memory versions of Phoenix Person and Tammy, who hates Rick for making her spend 2 years in high school. Just for reference, for people that don't live in the United States, high school for people in the US is 4 years, so she got off easy, only having to do 2 of those. The gun converts memories into energy, which he also then can use the same way that he uses his portal gun fluid, using it to open portals to other memories, allowing them to escape. I'm also sure that they're going to be selling a lot of this stuff in the episode that you see as toys, so like the guns, the ships, the vehicles, everything. Then they travel to the memory of Geardu's funeral where we see young Gearhead who they run over, and then when they're figuring out where to travel next, he mentions Squanchy had a very distasteful eulogy. Birdperson suggests they travel to Squanchy's terrible stand-up phase. The Bird Flappers Comedy Club name is just a reference to the Flappers Comedy Club, which is a real comedy club in Hollywood. This version of Rick here getting pissed because he wasted his time realizing that none of this was real. When they travel back to the original memory for the Burning Man concert where they met for the first time, we see them forming their band Flesh Curtains for the first time. There was also a reference to the Flesh Curtains band during episode 5 earlier this season in the dive bar, someone graffitiing that their band sucked and someone else crossing that out saying that they really sucked. There was also a Squanchy reference on the wall of that bar too. Young Rick sacrifices himself to save them from the Tammy from the memory of their wedding. Later we find out he somehow found a way to escape into real Rick's mind. And the whole animation of the black ooze bird monster here consuming the rest of the memories actually feels kind of like a Princess Mononoke reference. Deep cut, it also kind of reminds me of the pollution monster from Fern Gully, for anyone that saw that other old animated movie. They pull that whole joke with Birdperson speaking like Rick and then revealing that it was Rick because Birdperson normally speaks in that very formal way, then he ports his mind back to his body. Rick makes the same 100 years reference from earlier in the series, Rick and Birdperson, 100 years. He makes the Space Beth reference again, and then Birdperson calls him out for withholding the information about his child, and they mutually part ways. Like I said, I think the whole vibe here is that the writers are telling us that they're going to bring Birdperson back eventually and they'll pay off his child in a future episode. Like Rick will probably agree to help Birdperson rescue his child and they'll just handle that in some future season. They pay off that joke about the AI blowing Gene and then they explain where the younger Rick went to hide inside Rick's memories. He traveled into one of Rick's earlier memories from his own childhood, so you see posters and schematics for his spaceship, you see a console that he's modifying, gears on his dresser, just generally references to all the adventures that he will have someday as an adult. The whole joke with the babysitter is that she's getting super naked in the living room, and he just runs out to take a peek. So the joke here is that young Rick traveled back to hide in a very FAP-worthy fantasy moment from his earlier childhood. That's why he smiles knowingly when little Rick runs out to take a peek at the babysitter all naked and then tries to follow him to also catch the naked babysitter again. Older Rick catching him in the act knowing exactly what he was doing the whole time. I also love the joke where he offers to make him a real person so that they can have a drink together, but the young Rick still hates the idea of turning into the old Rick so much that he's like, you know what, I'm gonna pass on that. Why don't I just stay in here and you remember having a drink with me? Also, another huge reveal here. So if you look at the wall, this is a big deal. This is a picture of Rick's parents. I think this is the first time we've ever seen Rick's parents depicted on the series. Maybe we'll see some more Easter eggs for them in future seasons. Then during the post-credit scene, they pay off Birdperson's child, who looks kind of like a little Tammy with wings basically and Birdperson's eyes, being held captive in a Federation prison. They get into a fight at super hardcore, and it actually feels like this is meant to be a reference to Star Trek Deep Space Nine. There was a season of that show where Worf and a couple of the bigger side characters were trapped in a secret Dominion prison on a remote asteroid for a long period of time, and none of their friends knew that they were there. They had to escape. So like I said, some future episode, they'll probably pay this off having Rick help Birdperson rescue his child. If you did spot any Easter eggs in the episode that I didn't mention in the video, just write them below in the comments. I have to say, this is probably one of my favorite episodes from the season so far. Like I said, the finale won't be till September 5th, but episode 9 will be a full hour long, so it's basically like 2 episodes jammed together. Big reminder too, this week Marvel's What If episodes are starting. My full episode 1 video will post Wednesday. It'll be the exact same schedule as my Loki episode videos. What If will also be canon to the MCU, the movies, and the other live-action Disney Plus series. I will try to do a Rick and Morty finale trailer video. I'll name a giveaway winner when I post that video. Everyone click here for my full Suicide Squad post-credit scene video, and click here for my Marvel What If Episode 1 trailer video, and I'll replace the link with my full Episode 1 video after I post it later this week. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.